On today's episode, I'll go over everything you need to know ahead of tonight's matchup with the Jets, as well as the latest updates on CHSN.
You're Locked On Blackhawks, your daily podcast on the Chicago Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Just a quick reminder to please go and smash that like button, comment down below, and subscribe to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube. Got to let you all know as well that today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Go and download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps to get $20 off to the sporting events, concerts, or theater events near you. All right, good morning, everyone. Again, thank you all for joining me on another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, your one-stop shop for all things Chicago Blackhawks. Back in action are our Blackhawks here this evening for their second game of their 4-game road trip to kick off the season, the front end of their weekend back-to-back up north in Canada, as they'll be taking on the Winnipeg Jets here this evening, who are coming off of a very impressive season-opening 6-0 win over the Edmonton Oilers, the reigning Western Conference champions, in their own building on opening night. So the Jets certainly going to have some mojo in their favor as they get ready for their own season home opener, here this evening. So no time for the Blackhawks to go and cower. They got to be ready for a tough matchup here tonight in a building they've really struggled in over the last couple of weeks. And I'll tell you what, it's pretty crucial the Blackhawks go and get this game here tonight, because if they don't, they're going to be taking on the Edmonton Oilers in their building on the back end of this back-to-back tomorrow night, potentially staring an 0-3 start right in the face. And that's why I thought the season opener against Utah, not only was it not against the Colorado Avalanche for the first time in a couple of years, but it also felt like it was a really good opportunity for the Blackhawks to get ahead of the 8-ball. I've talked about how being behind the 8-ball has been a curse for this team the last couple of years. Really would have done them some favors if they had gone and put together a better performance against Utah and came away with 2 points in that one. Backs against the wall a little bit here, which you never want to say that early on in the season, but feels like kind of an important one for the Blackhawks tonight in Winnipeg. What I want to start things off with is the Blackhawks' projected lineup, because it does seem like Coach Luke Richardson, not anything major, but he has done a little bit of tinkering to the lineup for the Blackhawks' second game of the year. And again, I'll be going over the Blackhawks lineup before every Blackhawks game for the rest of the season, so please make sure to go and subscribe that button so you don't miss out on any of my game previews. But kicking things off for the Blackhawks on their top line, Ilya Mikheyev will not be there once again. It's going to be Nick Foligno, who we saw on the top line with Connor Bedard many times last year. Foligno, the captain, is going to be the one playing with Bedard and Teuvo Teravainen on the top line here tonight. Luke Richardson mentioned that, he liked what Mikheyev did when he was bumped down to the third line with Jason Dickinson and Joey Anderson in the second half of that game against Utah. Mikheyev was never really able to get anything going with Bedard, and once they did move Foligno up there, we saw a lot of good things out of that top line. Analytically, they were the best trio, albeit in a small sample size, for the Blackhawks in their season opener. So Luke Richardson going back to Foligno with Bedard on the top line. To me, Blackhawks fans, I am a little disappointed to see that in the second game of the season. We get Taylor Hall back. We bring in Tyler Bertuzzi, bring in Teuvo Teravainen. We have Andreas Athanasiou and Lukas Reichel. And we still have Nick Foligno on the top line. I thought the purpose of bringing all these guys in and having a better roster was to give Connor Bedard more talent and to already have Nick Foligno on the top line. And listen, this isn't a knock on Nick. He's done a good job since he's been up there. Just not my favorite thing in the world. But we'll see how that trio holds up for the Blackhawks tonight. Luke Richardson is going to stick with the second line of Taylor Hall, Philip Kurashev, and Tyler Bertuzzi, who really got things going in the final 30 minutes of that game. I mentioned Philip Kurashev hit the post with a yawning cage. Tyler Bertuzzi hit the post as well in the final minute of the third period. So that trio was doing some good things and could have easily wound up with a couple of pucks in the back of the net. So I like sticking with that trio here this evening. As I alluded to, Ilya Mikheyev down on the third line with Jason Dickinson and Joey Anderson still can provide a very good shutdown trio, even though Nick Foligno isn't there. Mikheyev is a good speedster and a responsible defensive-minded forward. Jason Dickinson is probably the best defensive forward the Blackhawks have, and then Joey Anderson fits in that role rather nicely as well. The fourth line is going to see a bit of a change, though, Blackhawks fans. Pat Maroon still going to be in there. Ryan Donato, who I thought was awesome and carried over the momentum he generated in the preseason, he's going to be in there once again, as he absolutely deserves. But Craig Smith is not going to be in the lineup tonight after that costly turnover that he made at his own blue line in the first period. Had a couple of good shifts after that, but I think still, especially with Andreas Athanasiou and Lukas Reichel looming on the outside looking in, this was a potential opportunity for Luke Richardson to get one of those two in the game. And it looks like it's going to be Andreas Athanasiou here tonight. And I don't personally love this for a couple of reasons either. First off, Andreas Athanasiou just doesn't fit well on the fourth line. He's not a fourth liner. Maybe this trio winds up doing better than I expect. I just think it's kind of a weird mesh. And also, we're going to scratch Lukas Reichel for a second consecutive game. We need speed. And even Luke Richardson alluded to that. These next two teams we're going to play, Winnipeg and Edmonton, play with a lot of speed. We got to have a lot of speed of our own. To not have Lukas Reichel in there, I don't agree with. To have Andreas Athanasiou on the fourth line, I don't agree with. We'll see how it winds up working for the Blackhawks, but pretty disappointed that Lukas Reichel is healthy scratch for a second consecutive game. I really don't understand that one. On the back end for the Blackhawks, we could potentially see the same defensive pairings. Not really sure, to be honest. We did see in the third period in particular, Richardson went back to kind of the old defensive pairings. I guess the old pairing of Seth Jones and Alex Vlasic, which we saw a ton of last year and had a ton of success alongside one another as the top defensive pairing. In practice yesterday, Richardson did go back to Martinez, Jones, Vlasic, Brody, but those duos just didn't work very well together. And TJ Brody, he absolutely has to be better than he was in Utah here this evening. I didn't think he had a very good preseason, didn't have a very good season opener, was at the very bottom of the Blackhawks game score charts. He needs to be better to take on a top four role and for the money that he got from the Blackhawks here this offseason. I personally wouldn't hate seeing Vlasic and Jones as the top pairing, Martinez and Brody with one another. And then Nolan Allen and Connor Murphy were actually the best defensive pairing analytically for the Blackhawks in that season opener. I wouldn't change anything up for the Blackhawks on the back end in terms of the six that they're icing. However, it is worth pointing out that Wyatt Kaiser has been officially activated off of injured reserve, while Isaac Phillips has sadly been reassigned to the Rockford Ice Hogs. Another decision that I personally don't like, but I've talked enough about that the last couple of days. I would be surprised to see Kaiser in the lineup here, though, this evening, even though he has been skating with the team the last couple of days. I think they do want to ramp him up a little bit more. I'd probably guess the final game of this road trip or the home opener next Thursday against San Jose is when we'll see Wyatt Kaiser make his season debut. In net for the Blackhawks, it's not confirmed yet, but I do believe we're going to see Arvid Soderblom, Blackhawks fans, which I know is going to give a lot of fans out there the heebie-jeebies based on what we saw from him last year. Doesn't have a good track record in this building, but I don't think the Blackhawks really have much choice. Laurent Brossoit apparently isn't still ready to go in game action from his injury. The hope is that he's ready to go by the end of this road trip or the home opener. And I don't think you want to be pushing 32-year-old Peter Mrazek this early, especially when he has a history of groin injuries. So I don't think the Blackhawks really have any choice but to go with Arvid Soderblom here tonight. You don't want to go with him tomorrow night in Edmonton, a hungry bunch who just got blown out in their season opener in their own building. I think that's a recipe for disaster. So Soderblom tonight, I think, is kind of the only choice that Luke Richardson had. I expect Peter Mrazek then to get the go, obviously, tomorrow night in Edmonton. Do want to be sure to mention, though, before I jump into segment 2, Blackhawks fans, we got some new look power play units at practice yesterday before this game against Winnipeg. The top unit, we saw Nick Foligno added there, while Taylor Hall was slotted down to the second unit, which I think was really smart because we need better depth on the second power play unit. It cannot be the fourth line plus Philip Kurashev. I talked about that on last episode. It is something that cannot be a thing moving forward. We brought in too many pieces this offseason to have that second power play unit. So moving Taylor Hall down, I think, was the right call. Nick Foligno now is in the down low spot on the top power play. Tyler Bertuzzi is in the bumper. Connor Bedard and Teuvo Teravainen are going to be the two players running the dots. And then Seth Jones, surprisingly, is going to be the one manning the point. The second power play unit, the updates that I know you all are more interested in hearing. Pat Maroon is still out there down low. Philip Kurashev's in the bumper. I do like now that we have Taylor Hall out there running the flank. But there are two defensemen on the second power play unit, in Alec Martinez and Alex Vlasic. And I don't like that whatsoever. Neither of them are true offensive-minded defensemen. Get Andreas Athanasiou out there. Or how about this idea? This is where Lukas Reichel can come in handy. Don't really understand what Luke Richardson is doing with the second power play unit. It's better than what it was last game, but that's not really saying much. And I do think we have more talent to provide than what's out there on the second unit right now. We'll see how these power play units look here this evening. Blackhawks really need one against the Winnipeg Jets. It's going to be a tough task in their own building with Arvid Soderblom starting in goal. All right, there is what you can expect out of the Blackhawks lineup when they hit the ice against Winnipeg tonight. 7 p.m. Central Time puck drop. Will it be televised in Chicago? I'll be talking about that during segment 3. Gonna take a quick break here when I return. Before I get into the latest CHSN updates, I do got to talk about my 3 keys to victory for the Blackhawks, as well as the best bets for this game this evening. Real quick, though, I got to talk to you all about game time. Wow, I messed this up already. 0 for 1. I love when I prepare incorrectly. First, I got to talk to you about the fine folks over at FanDuel. To all my NFL fans out there, you can now start the season with a big return over at FanDuel, which is America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can go and check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you also happen to place your bets. And to all my Blackhawks fans out there, FanDuel has listed odds for every award for the NHL season. They have individual odds, they have team odds, team wins that you can bet on. If you have a hunch on anything related to the National Hockey League or the Blackhawks, make sure to check out FanDuel.com right now. And if you're not already a member, when you create an account and put $5 down, FanDuel will reward you with $200 worth of bonus bets guaranteed. Yes, you heard me right. All you got to do, create an account, put $5 down, and FanDuel hands you $200 worth of bonus bets guaranteed that you can use to bet on anything. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Back here on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Just wanted to say thank you again to everyone who made Locked On Blackhawks their very first listen to start off your day. Now, for your second listen, make sure to go and check out the Locked On NHL podcast, where the action never ends. Locked On NHL provides national expertise with a local perspective, and you can easily find the link to Locked On NHL down in the description of this video on YouTube, or you can also simply search wherever you may be listening to your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Segment 2, wanted to be sure to get into my 3 keys to victory for the Blackhawks here this evening, as I will be doing ahead of every Blackhawks game throughout the regular season as part of my game previews. Another reason that you should be subscribed to Locked On Blackhawks. 100% free, won't cost you anything, and really does help me out tremendously as I'm currently on the climb to 2,000 subscribers. First key to victory for the Blackhawks here this evening is to not take any periods off. Going back to the preseason, I think we've seen the NHL, quote, NHL group for the Blackhawks. It was a little bit different in preseason, a little bit mixed and matched, right? But from the NHL group, as I said, we have yet to see a full 60-minute effort out of the Blackhawks in 4 games, I believe, from the NHLers. The season opener, and then the 3 times we saw them together for the most part in the preseason. They've had some good showings, they've had some good periods, but they haven't put it all together for a full 60 minutes. And I really believe if you want to beat the Winnipeg Jets here tonight, and man, I would love if the Blackhawks found a way to win this game, even though they've struggled in that building, even though they've struggled against the Winnipeg Jets. Man, an 0-3 start would be really disastrous because I just don't like the Blackhawks' chances on Saturday in Edmonton for them to bounce back. They really need this one here tonight, and what it's going to take to win this game on the road against this sound defensive team who's probably going to have Connor Hellebuck in the game. They're coming off of a rest. They don't have a game on Saturday night, so it's only the Blackhawks on the back end of the back-to-back. You got to put together a full 60-minute effort. If the Blackhawks put together a full 60, they played like they did in the final two periods in the first, that outcome could have wound up being different. It's going to take a full 60 out of the Blackhawks here tonight to take down the Winnipeg Jets in their own building. We need to see that in order to get 2 points. My second key to victory for the Blackhawks is to score on the power play. Do the top unit have a power play goal in the 4 games we've seen them play together, even dating back to the preseason? Like, there's been some decent puck movement, not in the season opener against Utah, but we need to get the finished product. We need this power play to be better. And I just talked about Winnipeg being a sound defensive bunch. They got a lot of big bodies on the back end. They know how to play good defense. They got Connor Hellebuck, who in my opinion is the best goalie in all of hockey right now and maybe the most underrated player in the entire NHL. If you can sneak a power play goal in on this Jets team, that would be so huge for the Blackhawks' chances of coming away. It's going to help out their offense at 5-on-5, which it's going to be tough to score goals in the even strength variety against this team. Getting a power play goal would be so key for the Blackhawks tonight in Winnipeg. And my third and final key to victory, Blackhawks fans, is don't hand out any goals. Everything that Winnipeg gets, make them earn it. No bad turnovers in the defensive zone. No freebie odd man rushes or breakaways. Because if we're handing out goals, it's not going to work for this Blackhawks team. I don't think they can win a shootout in Winnipeg. I don't think that's the recipe for success. So I really, really think if the Blackhawks tighten down the hatches, don't make any bad turnovers in the defensive zone, and don't give out any freebies, they have a chance to be in this game all the way up until the end. So those are 3 things for all you Blackhawks fans to be keeping an eye out for tonight. And if the Blackhawks execute those 3 keys, I really do think they got a shot at coming away with a victory tonight. I also want to go through some best bets, something I want to kind of start doing on the podcast, more so when weekend games roll around, because I feel like that's more susceptible to when some people are going to get together, watch the game with some of their buddies, and are maybe going to be more inclined to throw some bets down on the Chicago Blackhawks. So I figured, just as a fun little segment with our sponsor over at FanDuel, I'd go through some lines and some props that I personally like here this evening in Winnipeg, and some props that I'll probably be taking as I am going to be hanging with some of my buddies this Friday evening, maybe enjoying a couple of sodas and hopefully watching a Blackhawks victory. The first one that stood out to me, Blackhawks fans, first off, just the money line for anyone that's curious with the fine folks over at FanDuel. The Blackhawks money line currently listed at plus 202. The Jets are minus 250. Over-under is at 5.5. The over is currently minus 132. So if you were thinking of taking the money line, good number for the Blackhawks. Probably a fair number for the Jets as well. My first parlay that I'm going to offer out here today, I'm going over 5.5 in this game. And the reason I say that is because Arvid Soderblom's in net for the Blackhawks, and he hasn't performed very well in general in his NHL career, and he hasn't performed very well in this building. I believe he's made 3 starts in Winnipeg, has yet to come away with a victory, and the numbers aren't very pretty. So I'm going over 5.5. That gives me a little protection if things get ugly for Soderblom, or if the Blackhawks go and pot 3 or 4 goals in this game. That's going to hit, in my opinion. And I have that parlayed with Nick Foligno over 2 shots on goal, which, for anyone curious, by itself is only minus 118, which I think is a pretty good line. Foligno, as I referenced, playing on the top line here tonight, and also getting a look on the Blackhawks' top power play unit. 2 shots on goal out of Nick Foligno, I don't think is too much to ask for, along with the over 5.5. That's plus 196 right now over at FanDuel, Blackhawks fans. That's going to be my number one bet that I'm taking here tonight. Over 5.5, Nick Foligno, 2+ shots on goal, plus 196 over at FanDuel. Thought I'd give out a couple of goal scorers as well. Philip Kurashev, who I predicted was going to score the first goal of the season for the Blackhawks. I thought he had a really nice game, generated some nice momentum, as did the entire Blackhawks second line. So I'm going to roll over Philip Kurashev here tonight. Plus 490 for Kurashev to score a goal. On the Winnipeg side of things, I'm going Nino Niederreiter. Even though He played on the third line for Winnipeg in their opener for whatever reason. Maybe I'm wrong about this. I haven't gone and looked at the numbers or stats to back it up. But I feel like Nino Niederreiter scores a lot of greasy net front goals against the Blackhawks, whether that was back when he was with Minnesota or now with the Winnipeg Jets. I feel like Nino Niederreiter, for whatever reason, has the Blackhawks number. So those are the two goal scorers I'm giving out. Philip Kurashev plus 490, Nino Niederreiter plus 340. And then my number one favorite bet, over 5.5 total, plus Nick Foligno over 2 shots on goal, plus 196 over at FanDuel. Comment down below if you like me doing the segment, if you think it's fun, if you think it's something I should continue to do for weekend games for the Blackhawks, or if you think it's just something I should throw in the trash, throw to the side. Let me know your thoughts on that down below in the comment section. Let me know your prediction for the Blackhawks matchup with the Winnipeg Jets here this evening in the comment section down below as well. There is everything you need to know before puck drop between the Hawks and the Jets. 7 p.m. Central Time puck drop. As a reminder, will the game be broadcasted on CHSN? I'll be talking more about that when I return from our second break. Real quick, though, I butchered this again. I got to talk to you all about the fine folks over at Game Time. Hockey season has officially gotten underway, Blackhawks fans, and I cannot wait to get back to the United Center. I will be there for the home opener as the Blackhawks take on Macklin Celebrini and the San Jose Sharks. Cannot wait to get back to the United Center here in Chelsea Dagger, grabbing a cold beverage and enjoying the atmosphere at the Madhouse. And I'm sure many of you Blackhawks fans out there watching or listening to this right now feel the exact same way that I do, and that's why I'm here to talk to you all about Game Time. And Game Time has a new feature that's called Game Time Picks, which makes getting tickets to all sporting events or even comedy or theater events near you, not just hockey games, even easier. And I personally have used Game Time for probably over 10 years now up to this point, when I was in high school going to watch the Blackhawks in their heyday with my buddies. And even still to this day, I was just at a Cubs game a couple of weeks ago before their season came to a close. How did I purchase my ticket? I purchased it with Game Time. Not a joke. This is my favorite place to always go and purchase my tickets. It's the fastest, cheapest, and easiest way for you to purchase all your tickets. Plus, I love how they provide views from every seat in the house, so you know exactly what to expect before you arrive and also before you even make your purchase. Plus, last-minute tickets, flash deals, and zone deals make it so easy to buy NHL tickets now that hockey season is in full swing. So make sure to go and download the Game Time app right now, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps to get $20 off with your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Game Time. Real quick, just a reminder that Mailbag Monday is right around the corner, Blackhawks fans. Please make sure to reach out with your Blackhawks-related questions, either in the comment section of this video down below if you're watching on YouTube right now. If you're tuning in through an audio platform, feel free to DM me on any one of my social media channels, or you can even email LockedOnBlackhawks@gmail.com. Please make sure to reach out with your questions. Really enjoy doing this segment week after week, but I can't do it without your help. Segment 3. Before I close things out here today, definitely got to be getting into the latest updates that we have on CHSN, the new broadcast home of not only the Blackhawks, but the Bulls and the White Sox as well. And tick, 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 Blackhawks fans, by the second, this is the deadline day. We have reached it because the Blackhawks season opener against Utah, we know, was going to be nationally broadcasted on TNT. October 11th against the Winnipeg Jets, the second game of the year, is supposed to be the Blackhawks broadcast debut officially in a regular season game on CHSN. However, at this point in time, as I'm sure all of you Blackhawks fans know, CHSN still only has a deal with good old DirecTV. Those of you who have Comcast or have Xfinity still left in the dark as of right now have been forced to go out and grab an antenna, and it's absolutely bananas that we have gotten to this point. I expected things to come down to the deadline. I mentioned that multiple different times on this show. But the latest updates that we have heard from Jay Zawoski and the folks over at CHGO Blackhawks, phenomenal show, so insightful. They've had Jeff Agrest on their show a couple of times to get the latest tea on this. The latest updates aren't good, Blackhawks fans, and The reason why this is becoming so frustrating is because it sounds like CHSN is the one who is being incompetent here. So I do firmly expect a deal with Comcast to get done before this game against Winnipeg. Like, that's what happened with Marquee and Xfinity. It took till the day of, and they did get the game up because the network knows if they don't broadcast this game, they are really losing the fans. They are pushing them in the wrong direction. It's just a bad business idea. It's just a bad business idea. So that's why I've said throughout the course of these negotiations that I do expect Xfinity and CHSN to come to a deal before this game. However, the concerning latest updates that we've gotten is that apparently Comcast has thrown out to CHSN, what it costs to put your games on Comcast. What the rate is going to be is the standard rate for what all regional sports networks pay. It's standard all across the board. That is what CHSN is being asked to pay. It's not no more, it's not no less, reportedly, than what any other regional sports network pays. So to come down to the nitty-gritty, the day of, when it's beyond clear, I think to everyone, that CHSN has no leverage in this situation, they need Xfinity way more than Xfinity needs CHSN. I don't know how CHSN hasn't realized that, but to think that it's coming down to the final day because CHSN doesn't want to pay the standard rate that everyone pays, that is absolutely unacceptable. And it's a shame on them for letting that drag out this long when it doesn't seem like it's anything over the top that they have to pay. It's ridiculous that they've gotten this far. Another upsetting update, something I've repeatedly said on the show, is that it seems doubtful now that YouTube TV is going to wind up carrying CHSN. And it's not CHSN's fault on this one. YouTube TV apparently has no interest in carrying regional sports networks. However, the problem with CHSN here is they should have done their due diligence with YouTube TV months and months ago to go into this whole thing with a better plan. Because if you're not going to have YouTube TV, it doesn't sound like they're going to have anything set up with Hulu right at the start of the season. You are giving Blackhawks fans who have supported this team for hundreds of years throughout the ride, the ups and the downs, and there have been a lot of downs here recently, you are giving them the options of DirecTV, Comcast, or to go buy an antenna in the year 2024 is absolutely mind-melting. And if you knew you were going to have problems with YouTube TV or Hulu or any of those outlets that people legitimately use, especially younger people nowadays, then you had to get a standalone app or something ready to give all these other people an option, because people aren't going to pay for Comcast. People aren't going to sign up for a 2-year deal with DirecTV. And this is an absolute disaster by CHSN. And one thing I do want to reiterate, though, I know a lot of Blackhawks fans are pointing fingers at the Blackhawks here and saying this is a whole lot like the dollar bill Wirtz era. The Blackhawks don't have anyone at the table here meeting with Xfinity. This is all CHSN, right? So the Blackhawks kind of have their hands in their pockets here. There's nothing they can really do except hope for the best. The issue, though, was them sticking around with the Reinsdorfs and partnering with the Bulls and the Blackhawks. We could have seen the Blackhawks go their own separate direction like the Chicago Cubs did, but no, the Blackhawks had to be loyal to the Reinsdorfs because they've been in business at the United Center for years and years and years, and we got to stay meshed together, and we got to have this whole nightmare. The Blackhawks could have been in control of all of these decisions, but instead they stuck with the Reinsdorfs, they stuck with the Bulls and the White Sox, and now they're in this huge mess, and the fans are pissed, and rightfully so. You were asking people to go buy an antenna to stream your games in 2024? I'm a YouTube TV carrier. I am sure as shit not getting an antenna. Sorry to pardon my language there. I'm not getting an antenna. It is 2024. I will illegally stream it, but it's so annoying the fact that I have to do that. The fact that they don't have a standalone app or some option, or just the fact that they didn't even do their due diligence ahead of time. This is all a nightmare for the Blackhawks. With that being said, I do still firmly expect a deal to get done with Xfinity, because if you don't get a deal done with Xfinity, you're losing Chicago. And if you lose Chicago, it's going to be hard to get them back. They are not going to forget this one, especially watching a dreadful team that has not looked very good so far this year, albeit only one regular season game. But What a mess this has turned into for the Blackhawks. Hopefully, while I'm recording this, I'll look at my phone. Has a deal gotten done with CHSN as of now? Nope. Hasn't happened. It's 8:30 in the morning here, Chicago time, so less than 12 hours to get a deal done with Xfinity, or else first game on CHSN is only going to be broadcasted to DirecTV and people who buy antennas. What a dumb world we live in 2024. That's going to wrap up today's episode of Locked On Blackhawks, everyone. Thank you all again for joining me on the show. Be sure to go and follow Locked On Blackhawks for free right now, wherever you may be listening to your podcast, and to subscribe to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube. That way you can get the latest episode as soon as it becomes available each and every day. I'm your host, Jack Bushman. You can go and find me on X at JackBushman2. But be sure to go and follow my Strictly Blackhawks account. That way you can get all of the latest Blackhawks news and updates. Until the next episode, excuse me, which will be coming out tomorrow, I will be having a recap of this game against the Jets, as well as a preview of the back end of the back-to-back against the Oilers, dropping tomorrow morning. Until then, everyone, enjoy your Fridays. Be safe. Go Hawks. Please, Arvid Soderblom, don't be horrible. I'll see you on the next episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.